One of the biggest myths in email marketing is that great looking emails require a developer. They do not. And today we're going to prove it.
Yeah, today we're going to show you how to design a real promotional email inside of ChatGPT or Claude if you use Claude, how to connect those tools directly to your email platform, and the watch outs to make sure that you don't end up making some painful mistakes.
Yeah. By the end of the episode, you'll be able to sit down, open an AI chat window, and walk away with an email that actually looks like a pro designed it. And we've got something at the end of the show that we haven't fully talked about yet, but we're excited to. A tool that just came out of closed alpha.
Yeah, and trust us, you want to stick around for that part. It's pretty awesome. This is The Shift, presented by AWeber, the show that translates everything happening in AI into something business owners can actually use. It happens every Tuesday and Friday. I'm Chris Vasquez.
And I'm Jesse Kennedy.
Jesse always surprises me with these new stingers and audio tracks and stuff. I love it. It makes
I almost shared that one with you this morning. Then I was like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Like, I wanted to see your honest reaction to it. Obviously, if you haven't been with us before, that was a different show stinger there. It's not always 8-bit. I actually did that with Adobe Firefly, which I think, like, the more I play with it, like, I'm sure we'll demo eventually on here as well. But yeah, it was fun. Let's before we jump into the demo, I just want to call out we're launching. Well, actually, why don't you talk about it? What we're launching alongside the show here with the newsletter.
Yeah, if you go to aweber.com/shift, you're going to see a form to sign up for our newsletter. And the newsletter is going to have a bunch of stuff in it. It's going to have highlights from these shows, the most interesting parts, although you should definitely come and hang out because you can ask questions and see things live and all that good stuff. But we will be sending the best stuff in the newsletter, but that's not all. We're going to include an interesting prompt for you to play around with every day. This is going to be a daily newsletter. Fingers crossed, it's going to be a daily newsletter. And also some of our picks of interesting news that if you were really trying to learn AI and AI tools and where it works and where it doesn't, we're going to be sharing the news that is the most interesting to us, that guides us to new tools to try out or new processes to use or new ways to interact with models. We've been testing out some initial drafts and it's been a blast. And already, just by going through the exercise, I feel like I've learned a lot.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun because, I mean, like Chris and I know, and it's probably not a surprise to anybody, like as we're playing with stuff that we might demo or that we want to use ourselves, there's a lot of stuff that we want to share that's maybe doesn't make the cut for the show or isn't like totally demo worthy. And so there's a lot of extra stuff that we can put in there and just, I think it's going to be a lot of fun and really exciting. So absolutely go to aweber.com/shift and sign up for that. And what do you say we dive in?
Yeah, let's do it. So we are talking about how to use chat assistant tools that are readily available to most of us to create emails. So we both work at AWeber, where our primary product is email marketing. So we love email. We understand the effectiveness of it, how valuable it is. And these tools like ChatGPT is what I'm going to be demonstrating in today. They can make it way easier to create email. And in addition to that, give you the ability to create email designs that you never would have been able to do in the past. I never would have. Even if I was capable of doing it, I wouldn't have been able to, like, I wouldn't have found the time to do it. But now I can. Why is Chris's background always reverse? Is it reversed? Let me see. This is squirreling me. Let's see. Job profile. I know there's got to be some way for me to flip it, but I do not know how.
Let's figure that out for episode 8.
Oh, wait. Here we go. Is it unreversed now?
I think so.
Oh, it's funny. It's reversed for me.
It looks right to me now.
Okay, cool. All right. So let's go through the example. So I have as a side project, a pickleball paddle company. It's called Dinky. And let's say I want to create a promotional email to sell one of my specific products. That's going to be the example that we work through today. All of the information about the product is already on this page. And so the beautiful thing about working with some of these assistants is I don't need to copy and paste and make sure that I'm moving content constantly between where it exists somewhere on the web and the assistant. So I'm just going to grab this link, and in my prompt, I've done two things. I grabbed the image of my paddle and I put it in here. I probably didn't need to do that because it was on the page and the assistant would have been able to find it and use it. But I don't know why. This is probably more psychological than anything else. I feel like I get better results when I'm asking for a visual thing and I include screenshots of that thing. So when I'm asking in previous episodes, we talked about building stuff based on a website. I'll almost always take a screenshot of the website so the LLM, the model, can see, quote unquote, what the thing is I'm talking about and not just have to interpret it from the code on the page, which is what it's looking at. So I dropped in the paddle image, but otherwise my prompt is going to be really lightweight. I'm going to say create a promotional email based on, oh shoot, I even misspelled this prompt. It's very forgiving. On promoting this paddle, and then I just included a link to that paddle. It should be visually attractive, highlight the benefits of the paddle, and prompt people to buy. And I've learned my lesson from previous passes at this. I already ran this, and I'm going to show you what I got back.
We're not going to watch it bake?
Yeah, we will. Don't worry. There will be plenty of sitting through loading screens later on. So what it did is kind of neat. The first thing that it did is it gave me a text email or just wrote out the sale, really, how I was thinking about selling this product. And then it created the first version of this email, which, like, look at this. This is not bad. Like, it knew everything about the paddle. It's called the Sunrise. It put the image in there. It creates a great little value proposition, tells the story of the paddle. It's based on the sunrise in Wildwood, New Jersey, where I go in the summer. And then it says it's not just a pretty paddle. Here is the value proposition. Here are the specs on it. And it lays it out. And then there it is right there. Discounted price, a button to purchase. That's pretty great.
That's pretty awesome. You know? I mean, like, that's usable.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know it gets better, but like that's pretty solid as a first, like, one-shot output.
Yeah, especially from this vague prompt. Yeah. The real benefit here is it was able to look at my page, and the page is where I had put the information about the paddle that it was able to turn into that artifact.
Yeah.
When you hear me say artifact, that is, I'm referring to things, and Jesse, when we use that word, we're referring to objects that an assistant or a model might create for you, like an email or a page or whatever. So that's just step one, folks. But if you wanted to, that's where you could start in creating a promotional email for yourself. Grab a link to one of your products or your services, which is really cool online, and just ask it to write visually appealing. How exactly did I say that? Visually attractive, highlight the benefits of it, and prompt people to buy. So how it should look, what it should focus on, and what the goal of it is.
Yeah, and we had I think it was last episode a bunch of people talking about coaching services, talking about an Etsy shop where they make jewelry. Like, grab one of those products or grab one of your coaching service pages and just drop it in and see what it can do. It will be, you won't be upset.
Yes. So I decided to push this further. I wanted, like, the point of this whole show is like what.
It'd be a short demo if you didn't.
Yeah, for sure, but awesome, honestly. So like, I asked it for two things in one here. I wanted it to include my dinky.com branding and make the email less generic. That's like a vague prompt, but I wanted to see what it did. And I asked it to generate an image. I did two things right there. And here's where some of these general purpose models, we start to see the holes in them that require us to be more specific and take additional at-bats. Because all it did was create the image. It didn't update the artifact. So it made this image, which critique the image however you like. Like this arm looks really weird. That's like a crazy way to hold the paddle. I get that they're trying to show off the paddle.
It's definitely going to lose.
Yeah. But it made the image. I could have spent more time iterating on the image if I wanted to. I didn't want to right now, but it didn't update the email. So I had to ask again for it to expand on the email and use the image. And it did part of that. But here you can see another limitation of some of these assistants. It did, I will say, I thought what it did to the look of the email was great. Like it looks beautiful. It really called it out. It has 2 calls to action now to purchase. There's this button here where it tells the story of the paddle. And then after going through the specs and the technical benefits, it gives you another button to purchase. But ChatGPT has an issue where if you're referring to a local image that it's created, or even sometimes, in this case, I think I might have, no, here I just asked it to use that image. It will sometimes not know how to appropriately link to that image if it's not hosted somewhere. So the reason it was able to use my paddle image is, I think, and I could go look at the code, that it actually just used the image hosted from my site. Mm-hmm. And here, it generated an image and is having trouble slugging it into the email. It's not the end of the world, but it's one of those annoying things that happens when you try to use a general purpose tool like ChatGPT or Claude to do a specific thing like make an email.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, is like, if aside from the image creation, if I had that hosted on my site, I could say insert this image with a URL where that image is hosted, and it'll probably do a better job. Yeah, it just doesn't know how to take what it created and go host it somewhere and insert it for you, right?
Yes, which is a pain in the moment, but really again, not the end of the world, you know?
No, not the end of the world, but like, okay, there's a gap.
Yeah. So then I went back and forth with it a couple times trying to get it to add the image to the email. And then eventually I was like, you just can't do this enough. Enough of this. And I moved on to the next thing, which is I had an email that I was pretty happy with. And I wanted to get it into my email marketing tool, which in my case is AWeber. And the awesome thing about AWeber is that we have a direct connector in ChatGPT. So you can just go to ChatGPT's marketplace. I knew I should have had this up, but here you go. You can just go to ChatGPT's marketplace, search for AWeber under apps, and then there'll be a button here that lets you connect it. You can connect it to your account. And then once it's connected to your account, you can just ask things about it in chat. So like down here, you can see that I have AWeber added. You don't normally have to add the app you want to talk to. I just like to do that to make sure that it will work. But to add that to the conversation, I hit the plus button, go to more, and then go to AWeber. And then you can see that my prompt was, add this email to my a list for testing, that's the name of the list in AWeber. And then it goes through, it calls information about my lists, and then it creates the message. It's as simple as that, which is awesome. And then I can see in AWeber that email. So this is the final email that I put together. Looks really great. You see that it didn't pull the image over, but don't worry about that. But here it is. The HTML email is in my AWeber account, ready to send.
But like, think about, like, even if you have the skill set, like the time that it would have taken to design that, even just like the ideation of it. And then like, if you don't have the skill set, like the email developer, I mean, the speed to this result is just crazy. And the fact that you're looking at it in your ESP right now, where you're essentially ready to send.
Yes. There are some caveats, but we're going to get to that in a second. So I'm showing you this in AWeber's alpha, like closed alpha version of our message editor. So if you were to create this with AWeber right now and open it in AWeber, you would see it in an HTML editor where to make changes, you have to edit the code. You'd see something like this. And then you'd see a preview of it on the right-hand side. Mm-hmm. This is going to be releasing in beta very soon. So you'll be able to interact with AWeber very similarly to the ways that you would in ChatGPT or Claude, but it's designed specifically to make emails. So you don't have to worry about the things like uploading an image to a certain place and hosting it. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But while we're waiting, I'm just going to ask it to replace the hero section with this image.
Yeah, I mean, I think the beauty of what's coming with this builder is it's not a generalist the way ChatGPT or Claude are. It knows the ins and outs of building emails and designing emails, and it's just going to
Yes.
be that much better result.
Yeah, because like the specific example I was talking about was like hosting images. Like that is annoying, but it doesn't seem like necessarily a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see, yeah. So that did it. I'm in edit view. For some reason, the preview wasn't updating, but it did it. That image is now there, and this email looks freaking great. It looks so good. But here's where we need to talk about another pitfall of generic tools like ChatGPT and Claude. And that is that if you've ever tried to design an email yourself, you know that different inbox clients like Outlook and Gmail and Yahoo, they render your email differently. So your email actually looks different in these inboxes because they have different ways of interpreting the code. And ChatGPT and Claude, from my testing, if you just ask them for to create emails for you, email markup for you, they do a good job in the browser. So when I'm looking at it in the preview, but if I send it to an inbox, specific inboxes, mostly the older Outlooks, which a lot of people, especially in corporate environments, use, the email breaks in ways that feel really bad, that don't feel acceptable to me as a designer and someone who cares about my business. And in some cases, it'll even break in Gmail. And that's just a limitation of some of these generalist tools. So I want to show you a way that you can work around that for now. But I also want to use that as an opportunity to talk about these specific tools. So like we have our email builder. There are other tools for building emails with AI that also recognize this. But we have tools in place in our builder to make sure that when you're creating content, it understands the limitations of inboxes and it builds code that is compliant with those inboxes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get too deep into this, but this is a very unsophisticated look at some of the things that you have to deal with. And like behind the scenes in our builder, we deal with a lot more than this. But this is, I'm basically asking it to create me a promotional email using the image it created for me and an image of the paddle. And the only big difference is, other than asking to include the hero image, is I include a list of things that it needs to check for email compliance. And we don't need to go through all of these things, but I want to make sure that it doesn't have click here buttons. I want to make sure that it's not using code attributes that certain inbox clients can't understand or can't render. I want to make sure that it has attributes set for accessibility. So if somebody with a visual impairment or who uses assistant tools for interacting with their computer, if they open my email, they get the same benefit out of it that any other person would get. So that's what this whole thing is. And as an incentive for you to sign up for the newsletter, we're going to send an email with this base prompt to the list. I don't know, today or tomorrow, sometime by Monday, we'll send that email with this prompt that you can use, that you can build off for yourself, including that simple checklist.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So let's see what this made for me. All right, so that gave me a pretty nice looking email. I like the look of the other one, but let's not quibble about the look because it's really easy to update the look. I could just ask for changes to it and it would, both the look and the content. I do like the way it broke out these individual sections. I thought this was pretty cool. The language it's using here. It talks about the two styles of play and why it's a good all-around paddle. That if you haven't played pickleball, that probably doesn't seem cool. But if you play the game, it's like, oh wow, that's kind of neat.
That's like pretty next level informative. You know, like it's not for the beginner surface level. I love that I love the like pattern interrupts too. I agree with you. Like maybe you adjust some colors, but I love that it like just a good email best practice when you have a lot of content, using visual pattern interrupts to kind of it kind of refocuses the viewer. They realize, their brain realizes like, oh, something shifted here. So they're re-engaging with the content again and not, glossing over it. It's a really good practical use of it.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you, man. And then like I got to the point pretty quickly with this where I was happy with it. Yeah, I asked it to encode the image locally, but you can see that it has trouble with that. Like, I don't know if you can see the image quality in the stream, but this image is degraded and it's not full width. So doesn't look great, but I asked it to add it to my AWeber account, and here it is. It's in AWeber, able for me to edit, change. Like if I wanted to here, I could do the same thing I did in the other one and say, update the hero image with this image, with the attached image. And I'm going to try something else too. Update the color scheme of the email to harmonize with the hero image. See what it does. I love testing this stuff live because
we promised there would be some live baking, right?
Yeah, because you never know what it's going to do, which is really fun and interesting.
I think what's so cool about like whether you're doing this in ChatGPT or Claude or in an ESP that has this capability like AWeber, it's just such a giant pattern shift in the way that you work. Where like, and I know that could be stated 1,000 times with everything that's happening with AI, but again, it's just one of those things where I remember whether you're like talking about like website builders or email like ESP providers, like it was always about like who has the like best templates, like which templates look the best. I'm not saying that templates are irrelevant, but they're kind of irrelevant because when you work from like this way, like there's no limitation to what you want to make. If you can envision it and describe it, it'll put it together for you. Template be damned, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just an incredible shift. It opens the doors for everything.
It is really awesome. And that actually points to another reason why purpose-built tools are really useful, actually. Because sometimes it feels like, why would I ever use anything other than ChatGPT and Claude, But I think we've shown over the last couple of weeks why purpose-built tools can be much better. So like was it just Tuesday that we went through the process of the video stuff, or was it?
We did the 3 video AI video tools. Yeah.
So like that, we showed you the differences between 3 purpose-built tools, and the fact that like what you can do in them is different and really pretty impressive because they're built to give you one thing, which is great video output. And in the case of an email builder, like we're showing here, the purpose of it is to give you email content and to understand how people work with email, because you can ask it to create a new template for you every time if you wanted to, but that's generally not how brands work and how email marketing works. So the awesome thing about tools like ours is you can also ask it to just use a consistent template and fill in the content. So Jesse and I were kicking around the welcome message for the shift. And we have a template that we've been using for as we've been testing out the newsletter, and it's big and it has all these sections. And we didn't want the welcome message to have all those sections, but we wanted to have the same look and feel. So all we did is we came up with the content and we were like, hey, make this content work in this template. And it did. It was awesome. It like reused appropriate styles for different things. You'll be able to see it yourself pretty soon. But that was really kind of incredible, that experience of I have this thing that has incredibly different content than the content I want in it. And just to be able to say, put this content into this wrapper, and it figured out how to make it all work and feel harmonious.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like you're not starting at the beginning each and every time when you're using a purpose-built tool.
Yes.
That can retain that kind of information.
Yeah. So that is the process. I was hoping we could spend a little time, Jesse and I are both designers at heart, kind of banging on this email, that this is a similar process that you could use in ChatGPT or Claude, but just like go through the process of making some conversational changes and see what we get back.
Yeah.
Anything that you would change right off the bat?
That white background behind the logo and the header is I'm losing the logo and it's just not doing it. It's not working. It's not doing any work.
Yeah.
So I don't know, looking at your color palette, maybe a dark header.
Really dark gray. Let's say that. Bang. That's one. What else might we want to do?
The paddle's probably taken up, like we've shown it in action, right? In that really nice full width image. I'd probably make the paddle like an inset, like a 2-column maybe, where it's paddle and the information. It doesn't need that much vertical space, especially I'm thinking about somebody viewing this on mobile, just how much vertical space that's taking.
Okay, let's do a smaller image of the paddle on the left, and the price and buy button on the right. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll kick those two off. Yeah. While we're waiting for that to get done, let's see what else might we want to change. I kind of like a lot of
I wouldn't touch the why you'll love it section. I really like that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I thought it did a good job in general with the colors of this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty nice.
Well, they're more derived from the paddle and by way of that, the image that it created, than the ChatGPT version.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, that was pretty fast. Move that. And I mean, there's stuff that I would probably tweak about this, like
some
mess with the alignment of it.
Right? Sure.
Yeah. That actually.
How's the header look?
Oh, good. Good question. I'm just gonna say make those columns equal width, and this will hopefully. Oh, that looks great.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, this will hopefully demonstrate that it understands the context of what I'm saying. This is kind of neat. You can see the thinking of what it's figuring out as it kind of figures out its approach. Mm-hmm. And this is a really helpful as you're trying to use these tools. I would say when you can do it in both cases, when a model does something that you either really liked or really didn't like, try and look into the thinking. It'll show you like, what is it doing? And then that stuff that you could say, like, if it did something wrong, you can look at its chain of thought, see where it made that decision and give it another thing. It's like, oh, I saw that this is what you thought you should do this instead. And just going through that exercise also trains you to better understand how these models work.
A couple of quick questions. Miss J asked a little bit ago, and I think it was when you were talking about the ChatGPT with the AWeber app in ChatGPT. She asked if that was global. I'm assuming like globally available.
Well, the AWeber chat in ChatGPT is available to all users on any plan. And the way that it works is when you set it up, you have to authenticate it against one of your AWeber accounts, because you can have multiple AWeber accounts, and then it will work for any list on that account. So I have like a couple dozen lists on my account, and now I can ask it for subscriber details. I can ask it to create content. I can ask for information about the list for any of the lists on that account.
Yeah. And then we just had a question. Is this in Claude? No, this is actually in soon to be released email builder from AWeber, which is an email marketing platform or email service provider that actually Chris and I both work for. And Chris has been obviously, like, he's our chief product officer. He's been intimately involved in the creation of this with the team, along with some other builders that we're going to show soon.
That is a great question, though. Like, or it points to a great question of how would you use it in Claude. I'm going to run that same prompt in Claude with my hero image and my paddle image and see what it comes up with. But the nice thing about connectors like AWeber's is you can use them in Claude as well as ChatGPT. So in Claude, it takes a little bit more work because you have to set up a custom connector with AWeber's MCP, which, Jesse, if you wouldn't mind dropping a link to that knowledge base article into the YouTube chat, it's not hard at all. And anyone can do that as well. But then once you have that set up, you can do the same thing. You can have Claude create an email for you. You can edit it back and forth conversationally in Claude. And then when you're ready to send it through your email marketing platform, you can just add that connector. Like if I go down here and I have AWeber as a connector. So I have that on. Oops, no, I want that on. And make sure that's on. And then I could just say, add this to a list for testing or whatever your list name is in AWeber, and it would add it. Or if you use another email marketing platform, as long as they have an MCP, which many of them don't yet, you could have them add it and then send it from your email marketing platform. So this is very bad. Why did you do such a bad job, Claude?
And just as a reminder, like if you are just jumping in and joining, or just as a reminder, you gave the same prompt to ChatGPT and the same prompt to Claude and the same prompt to the AWeber builder, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I think this is, again, an issue with not understanding what to do with the images that were provided to it. So what I'm going to try is add. Actually, you know what? Let's just debug this live. So what I would say is I can't see any of the images in the artifact. They're showing as broken image links. We'll just see what Claude does with that. This is actually another principle that we talk about all the time. Well, thank you for nothing, Claude. But when you don't get what you expect, don't just give up. Don't just say it was a failure. Iterate. Just like if you were working on an idea yourself and you bump into a roadblock, I mean, sometimes we give up, but if you really care about getting it done, then you ask a question. You go online and search for an answer to a question. Or if you're working with someone else and they do some work that is subpar, that doesn't meet your expectations, you give them more context about what you need from them and what the issue was.
Well, and again, you don't need to understand. You don't need to understand why something's not working. You just need to be able to describe what's not working and ask it to investigate. To try and figure out why.
Yeah. So I want to go to a quick audience engagement, and then we'll move on to the mailbag shortly after. But as you're watching this, please come up with an idea here. What's a change, no matter how off the wall you think it is, that you would make to this email? Would you change an image? Would you change colors? Would you ask for new information? Leave a comment in the chat, and we'll make that change live. I'm going to try something while we're waiting. That for the tons of comments that I'm sure are going to come in, but I'm going to do some more image generation. I'm going to say update the image of the paddle with a version that has let's say regenerate the image of the paddle with a version that has a beautiful background that really highlights the look of the paddle. I'm not going to be more specific than that, but we'll kick that off. You can see that it's thinking through, understanding what my ask was. I've asked for an image with an attractive background.
There you go. Make the price black to show up better.
Okay, we'll do that.
Good call out.
Show up better. This is something you could also change directly in the editor if you want, but we're going to do this all conversationally for the heck of it today.
That's worth pointing out, because you and I have talked about this before. There are some editors like this. Like Level was no longer. Well, actually, Level was in the middle. But some of these, like, you can conversationally make changes, and that's such a powerful, beautiful thing when it's like more complex. Sometimes you want to change a bit of text or price, and with some of these editors, like even in Lovable, they're click to edit. You click and make your changes, and it writes a conversational prompt for those changes to be made. Whereas, like it having access to actually click into it and not have to do everything by typing it out and explaining it, I think is powerful.
We got another great idea. Make it shorter somehow, so less scrolling on the phone. That's a great one. So it created this image.
Oh.
That's not bad. I mean, like it knows it's called the sunrise paddle. I didn't give it explicit direction, so it was like, okay, I guess I'll put it on a sunrise background.
But it's interesting too, because it even like shifted the angle of it to kind of give it like this more magnificent, like
And like this is a core thing about the benefit of humans and like the thing that makes us human and makes humanity so valuable, even as these tools are getting so much smarter and better, is
Mhm.
the thing that you'll see over and over again is it creates 80% content, stuff
Mhm.
that is generally generally pretty good, but not stuff that really like hits you as a person.
Mhm.
And that's where we come in. We are responsible for taste, for understanding the nuances of written language, of imagery, of video, of voice that these models just can't and maybe never will, because they're not actual people that interact with other people. So in this case, like, I'm unhappy with this image and there's stuff that I would do to change it, because I am a person who knows what the world actually is and can feel and actually think. And so I would go back and forth and use my taste to iterate on it to make it better and better. But it did make a bunch of changes. It made the text color change, and it also focused in on a smaller amount of
Mhm.
benefits to reduce the length of the email.
And
So
simplified your footer too. It's like, it's also given a more direct action where it's really just about learning about the paddle and not taking, alternative paths off the email.
yeah, and we could go on and on with this forever and ever if we like, but we're going to wrap it up and jump into the mailbag.
Let's do it. All right. Our question today, we have one, but it's a multi-part question. And it's from Doug at the Westport Journal. Doug said, I'm an AI noob. I'd like to set up an agent to do a couple of things. Number one, and for I, because I'm familiar with Doug and Westport Journal. The Westport Journal is a local publication or newspaper, or online publication for Westport, Connecticut. So he said, I'd like to set up an agent to rewrite press releases so that they make sense from our news site's perspective. How would you approach that, Chris?
So there are a couple ways you could do this. You could build an actual agent that did this. And the best way to do that, I think, would be to use Claude Code or Codex, which are Claude Code is Anthropic's coding harness, and which is like the way that you interact with their model specifically to create code. And Codex is OpenAI's coding tool, coding harness. And what they do is they allow you to conversationally and also through their UI write code, create applications. Codex actually has some really cool functionality for things like scheduling tasks and running workflows regularly. So this might be a good use case for Codex. And within Codex, you would just give it a description of what you wanted it to do with as much detail as possible, and it'll build you an application that you can run to do the thing. What I might suggest, and that is most valuable for stuff like when you want news delivered to you every day, which is one of the things that as a local newsletter operator you might want. You might say, like, I want you to look at all these sources for other local news publications, and I want you to run these web searches every day and give me news. So that's what I would do there. And you know what, I think it would probably be interesting for one of these shift episodes to walk through building a local newsletter dashboard in Codex. That would be pretty
I think
cool.
that would be awesome.
But can you share my screen? Because there's a simpler way to get some of what Doug is asking for. And the 2 points I'm thinking about is he has a press release and he wants to rewrite it so it works on his news site and get SEO excerpts from it. And I think this is a perfect use case for a Claude project.
Yeah.
So projects is over here in the sidebar. If you use Claude, you could, I think ChatGPT has projects or something similar too. But what projects are is it's a specific prompt and supporting material that you can use to perform a given task. So in this case, this might be the press release reuser. And within this project, I would give it instructions to say, like, I'm going to give you a press release, and I need you to write a summary post for my site, and then like link to your site, and SEO excerpts. So when people search for news about the referenced company, I rank well. And you could probably go in here, not probably, you could definitely go in here and add additional details.
Yeah, and one quick hack there that I like to use is before I get into the project, I'll open a Claude chat, or if you're building a custom GPT and ChatGPT, same thing. And I'll say, this is what I want to do. Like if I'm you, Doug, I want to set up a Claude project to rewrite press releases so that they make sense for our news site's perspective to our audience for Westport Journal and Westport, Connecticut, and suggest SEO experts. Write me a set of instructions for a Claude project and ask me any questions that I haven't answered. And it'll give you really robust, thorough instructions that you just then paste into the project instructions rather than even having to like describe it here. It gets you from like that to that like kind of working output a lot faster, I think.
Yeah, I love that. I should have done that right here. But the other thing that I added to this is I went in and tools are like functions that the model, like Sonnet inside of Claude or whichever model you're using, can use when they need to get additional information. So in this case, I've added the web search tool, and I should probably add the research tool as well, but I'm just going to add the web search tool. So when, or if the model thinks that it sees something interesting in the press release that it wants to expand upon, it has the ability to make searches on the internet to get additional data. It's really cool. And I could actually even reference in here, now that I've added the web search tool, I could say, use the web search tool to find or to research how other publications might be talking about this press release.
And in Doug's case, if at Westport Journal you're using, or any of y'all are using like an SEO tool like Ahrefs or Moz or any of those, you can connect those too and have them as part of this project, like do SEO research and tailor those SEO excerpts for your post or whatever around that content to help you, kind of better track. You can connect them the same way that you connected the research tool.
And then all I would do is I would drop in a link to the press release, or if I had a PDF of it, drop that in here. I would run the thing, and then I'd get a result that I could use. I really should have done that too. Anybody have a press release handy?
Yeah.
News. Let me just find a press release of something. Okay, here we go. Here's a press release from AWeber from a couple years ago, but let's see how it does with it. There we go.
Hopefully rate it for a Westport audience too, right?
Yeah. We'll see how it does here. But we're just really looking for the format of the output. So you can see that it's looked at that. It's searched for how other people might be talking about it. Now it tells me that it's writing up an article about this. And it's crafting an SEO optimized article about AWeber's awards. You can, like I showed you in AWeber's email builder, you can look at the actual chain of thought, what it went through when it figured this all out. And now it's working on publishing the article. That's actually pretty cool. Did some pretty neat stuff here.
And I think, like, for anybody wanting to take advantage of something like this, like you can tell it to, like, learn your you can train it on like your writing style or your voice, based, especially something like Westward Journal. You've got tons of content for it to train on there, so you know that you're getting an output that you're pretty much just about ready to publish. There's so much refinement that you can do training it on existing content and other things like that.
Yeah, and it's awesome. It did break out SEO metadata suggestions, the title, SEO title, and meta description as well, and walked through the strategic approach it took to writing this article from the press release. It's pretty cool.
And it even used EAT signals, like Google's new like algorithm shift a couple of years ago that really changed the way a lot of content creators had to approach, and bloggers had to approach stuff. It's pretty solid. And then, obviously, I know Doug's original question was about setting up an agent to do this. And, that could probably, like Chris said, be its own topic. There's a lot more you could do to kind of automate this rather than manually inputting into a Claude project. But at the very least, you're taking something that used to take, a junior writer or intern or journalist significant time to do, and dropping it into this project, and you've got a unique output for your audience. Pretty solid. Yeah. All right, that's our mailbag for today. You know what? We usually close this out with like our touch grass moment. What are we gonna go? Like, Chris and I are still trying to figure out how to kind of formalize that and make it a more part of the show. Which is, what are we gonna go do this week to step away from AI and technology and, go live our lives as human beings. But before we share ours, or while we do, I would love for anybody watching right now to drop in the chat, like, what are y'all going to go do today, this weekend, this week, to just step away and recharge from all of this? And maybe while we're hopefully getting some responses there, Chris, what are you going to do?
This is very funny because most of my time, we're getting ready to release these new builders in more open beta next week. So I'm not going to be
very close to all of it.
Yeah, I'm going to be inside for a fair amount of time this weekend. But Sunday is Mother's Day, and my wife is a great mom. So we're going to get lunch outside on Sunday.
I love it. I sound like a broken record, but we have 5 youth sports games between my 2 children between tonight. Yeah, it's a light weekend. But it's a lot of fun. And then we're also we've got some lunch and dinner plans for my wife. Hopefully, device free, and technology free for just a moment at least. We've got I love it. John's gonna relax and watch the NBA playoffs. I'm a Philadelphia guy.
Same.
That's getting harder and harder to do, but hey, fingers crossed, big game tonight. Hopefully you're not a Knicks fan.
Well, actually, if you are a Knicks fan, you're probably pretty happy right now, so
Yeah, that was a selfish statement. For you, I hope you're a Knicks fan. For me, I hope you're not.
Oh, man.
Kim Vitti does rodeo photography on the weekend. Awesome. Fresh air and grass. That is awesome. Yeah. I have a cousin who does dressage for University of Tennessee, and going to watch her ride, like, it's just such a fun environment. Rodeo next level. Awesome. This is great. Thank you all so much for being with us again. John,
this is Billy, Sixers.
Really, thank you, John.
Tyrese Maxey,
please come back.
Fastest guy in the NBA.
I love it. Ms. J has a question that I think is worth answering before we pop out. Can this integration work well with landing pages in AWeber?
So right now, the first builders we're going to be releasing are going to be for sign-up forms, which are just amazing, and emails. We are planning on supporting landing pages with the same format, but that's not going to be part of our initial builder release. Now, I'll say, like, if you want an AI first approach to building landing pages, tools like Lovable are great. They're probably overkill for many of the landing pages that many of us who are in email marketing want to make, but as a page builder, it's pretty darn great. Ours is going to be better when we launch it. Not to humble brag, but that's a great way to get started. You could use Lovable, or there's another tool called Replit that is also very good for building pages with AI assistance.
Yeah, I was gonna say Lovable too. I mean, yes, keep an eye out on AWeber's because it's just gonna be killer. It's not here yet. Lovable can really be a great tool. I've done a lot of like quality looking sites and landing pages in a fraction of the time that it used to, or in a short evening of having fun. And I still think like I think we should probably, I know Lovable is not new, but we should probably demo that, or that in Replit or something like that. A few of those conversational website builders that are really like just end to end, no code friendly.
Let's do that on Tuesday. You want to do that Tuesday? That's one that like
come on back on Tuesday. You want more about landing pages? There you go.
Yeah.
When the co-hosts are also the producers, we get to make decisions like this live.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for being here. Again, go to the aweber.com/shift to sign up for the email newsletter. And Chris will also be sharing that prompt structure that he used by email in the next couple of days. If you sign up there, we want to give people a little bit of time to sign up before we send that too. So, and please, you can go to aweber.com/shift. There's also a button to submit your mailbag questions, just as Doug did. Thank you, Doug. And please join us on Tuesday, noon Eastern time. We're here every Tuesday and Friday, noon Eastern time. We're having a blast. We hope y'all are having a blast. The more feedback you give in the chat and those in that question submissions, the better we can make this together and keep having fun. So thank you all so much for being here.
What if you could have a complete email marketing system that's ready to make you money in just 7 days? Most small businesses know that email marketing works, but they get stuck on the setup, the templates, the landing pages, the sign-up forms, the automated sequences. It can be overwhelming. And here's the thing, you shouldn't have to become a tech expert just to grow your business. That's exactly why we created AWeber Done For You. You just answer a survey about your business and our team builds everything for you. Professional emails with your branding, landing pages that convert, automated welcome workflows, all designed to capture leads and grow sales. In 1 week, you go from having nothing to having a complete system ready to make you money, all done for you. You get unlimited edits for 30 days, and if you're not completely satisfied, we'll refund every penny. And best of all, AWeber Done For You is just $79 for a limited time, so you can have what agencies charge thousands for. Stop waiting and start growing today.